And we're live. Salam. Welcome to the Samawar Network. My name is Nural, and this is our first Google Hangout for 2018. For those that are new, Samawar Network is an online platform for Afghans in the diaspora to discuss issues that affect us in the community. We launched our podcast about last week, I believe, where we kind of got into the issue of love and dating within the community. And we wanted to continue that conversation with a panel. So we're excited to have our esteemed panelists with us this evening and really get into the conversation of sex, lies, and dating. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-moderator, Reza.
Salam, everyone. So I'll just go ahead and introduce myself first. My name is Reza, as Nura said, and my relationship status right now is taken. I am currently dating somebody. So I'll popcorn over to Madina.
Hi guys, I hope you can hear me. I don't have a headset on right now. I'm Madina, I live in LA, and I am in a relationship. So I will popcorn over to Dawood.
How's it going, guys? Dawood from Orange County, and I'm currently single.
Who are you going to popcorn over to?
I forgot. I'm popcorning over to Murtaza.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Murtaza Aliyar, and I just got engaged, actually. So, yeah.
Congratulations. We're going to have to bother you about that.
Yeah.
Nazo?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nazo. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I am single.
Hey, I think half of us are single then. This is a good 50-50 between me, you, and Dawood, and the other half. And I'm getting Dawood married off. So if anyone has inquiries on Dawood, please contact me afterwards.
Can you be my agent too, please?
For sure. I'm happy to be. As a sister, it's my responsibility. Reza, what's our first question?
Relationships happen since 2014.
That's the goal.
So I think the first question that we want to dive into and really sort of get a handle on is the secrecy aspect of relationships within the Afghan-American diaspora. And so this is a question that I'm going to pose from left to right on my screen, starting with Diz. Sorry, Diz. What is the biggest secret in terms of a relationship that you've had that you've kept from your parents, right? So yeah, I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, hopefully my mom isn't watching this and she doesn't know how technology works.
Diz, I'm still trying to get you married off. Be careful with your words.
Yeah. Okay, so about a few years ago, I was in a relationship. I was maybe 6-7 years ago. I told my mom I was going to go and stay at my cousin's house at UCLA, but I ended up flying to Virginia to go and stay with my girlfriend for a weekend. And she doesn't know to this day. So hopefully.
And did your cousin cover for you too? Or did you ask them to cover for you?
I didn't need to because but I let her know hey, if my mom asks, I'm with you, and my phone's dead. That's why I'm not picking up.
Okay, yeah. Madina, what's the biggest secret that you've kept in a relationship from your parents?
So in senior year of high school, I wanted to go spend the weekend at my boyfriend's house at the time. And so what I did was I doctored a fake consent form to go for a school trip over the weekend. And I had my mom sign it and everything. And I spent the weekend with my boyfriend.
That's dedication. I hope it was worth it.
She found out afterwards. And
oh, darn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was fun.
Only reality TVs were there for the aftermath.
Murtaza, what's the biggest secret you kept in a relationship?
Honestly, so throughout my whole track record, I've never had to keep a relationship secret up until just now. And that was because I was dating an Afghan girl and it was a serious relationship. And my mom didn't find out, up until I don't know, a week or so prior to us, not a week or so prior to us getting engaged, but kind of getting that ball rolling and everything. So.
All right, I think we're gonna come back to that. after we hear from Nazal. What's the biggest secret you've kept in a relationship?
So mine is similar to Manina's. I'm pretty lucky that in my adult life I haven't had to keep too many secrets from my parents. But when I was in high school, I was like a sophomore, and a junior or senior from another school asked me to prom, and my parents absolutely would not let me go. And as a determined young lady, I decided I was going. So I packed the dress, I packed heels, I packed makeup, all that, and went to go spend the night at a friend's house and went to prom and did the all night prom party and all of that. And to this day, my mom doesn't know. So if anyone's watching that knows my mom, don't tell her because it's the greatest lie I've pulled off.
And then Nura, you're not escaping this.
I'm not escaping this.
No,
Okay.
you're not.
I think it was weird. In college, I hid the ethnicity of the person I was talking to from my grandfather because he wasn't Afghan. So my mom was like, "Don't tell your Babu John." And God bless his soul, he's passed away since. But she's like, "Don't tell him until he needs to know. Just pretend he's Afghan." And that was just to save myself. That was like parental advice I took. It was just like. So we're gonna get into this later, the role of interracial couples and stuff, because that was like, it was like, if they find out he's not Afghan, you're gonna be the one to tell him and not me, was kind of what happened. And I think obviously now that I'm older, the dynamics look different, but at that time, I was amused by it, to be honest. But yeah, I thought it was interesting.
That is interesting. All right, so moving into the next question, regarding Murtaza, you said that you kept it a secret up until now, and then you also mentioned it's because she was Afghan. And so how are those two things aligning? Because I think a lot of outside folks would sort of think intuitively, oh, because she's Afghan, it's better for your parents. It's easier for your parents to comport that. Why would you want to hide it? And why would you want to keep it a secret?
See, you would think so, right? But it just wasn't the case, right? It was much easier for her to deal with, the Salvadorian chick or the white girl or the other white girl and it's really, really odd. But I'd say the fact that that Jasmine was Afghan or is Afghan, made all the difference. I mean, it was a whole like it was another level of like severity with a relationship. And for my mom personally, some of my other family members knew, my mom didn't know. And for her, it just in her mind, if I told her I was dating an Afghan, instantly, who's her family, where's she from, what do they do, blah blah blah, and it just goes into this whole thing of 8 months ago, I didn't know that, so I kept it a secret from my mom.
So it sort of sounds to me like it was something that she wanted, that she felt more comfortable with it being a secret. Am I hearing that right?
Like she did, my
Yeah,
partner.
yeah, your partner. She wanted this secrecy and that it would make her more comfortable. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I think it was not. I think it was mutual. It was very mutual.
Okay. And it's
Yeah,
very mutual.
yeah.
And also, I know you want to say something about this too.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important to talk about why the need for secrecy. Like, it's so prevalent in our community. And I mean, I think there's lots of reasons for it, and you guys can chime in about why. And every family is probably different too, right? Like, it stems from the old days, it brings shame on the family, it's dishonorable, all of these terms that are negative connotations when it's something as natural or beautiful as love and it's being hidden. And so that's the issue that I have with it. It's like, why be secret about something that should be a really happy time in someone's life?
Mm-hmm. Diz, what did you want to say about this?
Oh, so personally with me, I am totally okay with being open with like if I'm in a relationship, who I'm dating. When I've dated non-Afghan girls in the past, so just like with Murtaza, I've been open about it, right? not necessarily with like my mom so much, just because I don't want to I don't want to tell her something unless I'm serious about it. But like I'll be open in the community, like, yeah, this is my girlfriend, you know, her name's Vanessa or Lindsay or whatever her name is, right? But when it came to when I was dating Afghan girls, I never spoke about it. Even with some of my closer friends, they knew I was talking to somebody who was Afghan, but I never gave them a name. I never showed them a picture, just because in our society, like a girl dating one guy can, and to like them thinking that that girl is now tainted or unpure or something. So that's why I've always kept their names out of it.
Marina, what's up? I know you want to chime in.
Yeah, so I also think that the whole secrecy aspect, like, yeah, it needs to be changed. It would be great to have more open relationships with our parents, but at the same time, I think that it does make sense to inform your parents about something when something is serious. So like I kind of see like my peers bringing around like a lot of boyfriends and girlfriends to their parents, and it's like you start to like cultivate relationships, and it kind of you start to, it adds something else to the dynamic. And what if the person doesn't want to remain in a relationship, but they feel like, well, my family's invested, right? So like on one side, I feel like I wish I could be more open with my parents about who I'm seeing, because then I wouldn't have to hide anything from them. And it makes me sad to have to hide something from my parents. But at the same time, the way that my mom described it to me, I remember one time I was like, do you want to meet my partner? And she was like, no, because what if I really like this person? And what if you don't stay with them? And what if I like form an attachment with them? Or what if the family does and you end up not being with them? So come to me when you feel like you're ready to get married. And I really was like, okay, like respect, like I get that. I understand that. So I feel like personally, I'm not advocating for complete openness with your parents. I'm advocating for letting your parents know whenever you feel like you're moving forward with something serious in your life, if that's what you want, type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I've always been open with my mom. I've changed a lot. When I was in college, if someone was interested in me, I was super old school. If someone's like, oh, I like you, I'd be like, you have to call my mom. Here's her number. And if she is down and thinks you're responsible, then we can talk. So I was that old school Muslim girl that straight up, I was like trying to test whether they were serious or not, would they actually pick up the phone? And when they did, I was like, oh, okay, they passed. It was kind of like a test. I was testing them to see whether they were serious or not. And when I was 19 and 20 and 21, I think at that age for me, I was naive, and that helped protect me from my own naivete. Now, like fast forward to 10 years later, my mom's like, you're your own person. You're an adult. You know what you're doing. And like that whole like test that I used to have is no longer in existence. So it's interesting how that's evolved for me, but I used to be a little old school when it came to and like very open. If someone liked me, I would straight up tell my mom, because I was like, he might call you because I gave him your number. And like shout out to the guys that did not get scared away from that. But we were talking about purity and things, and we got a question on Facebook I wanted to turn to. Ahmed Ansari asked on Facebook, we need to talk about hold up, where'd that question go? Let me get to it. Okay. Ahmed said, we need to talk about why the idea of virginity continues to hold such sway over our cultural consciousness. A social construct meant to make people, especially women, feel badly about their sexuality and sexual experience. It is a way of policing other people's bodies and passing judgment on how they use them. It is, at its very core, a way of controlling and subjugating women. So that was what Ahmed's comment was, and I wanted to see what y'all thought.
I 100% agree with him. I think your sexuality is your own personal belief and your own personal desires, and however you want to express it should be totally fine for you. I don't think that virginity is something that should be as valued as it is. because it's my personal preference. And so if I want to give that away to someone, then that's my choice. And I should not be looked down upon for doing that. And if you want to respect the religious side of it, that's totally fine for you too. But I agree with him. It is a social construct that we need to stop.
Yeah, I agree with Nozo. It's kind of seen as like a barometer for how marketable you are for marriage. And it's seen as a reflection of your parents' parenting. And especially women, Afghan women, we carry the honor of our family. And so if it's known that you're not a virgin, then you're way less marketable. And this is really problematic if girls are subjugated to sexual assault. Like me, for instance, and I'm really open about talking about it, that was how I lost my virginity. It was through a sexual assault. And because we were taught in my household that like that was what you give to your husband, I really had no one to turn to. And I was really, really adamant about staying a virgin until marriage. And I remember even chastising my friends and being really judgmental when they did lose it to someone that they loved. And even the way that we talk about it, losing it, right? Like it's something that is gone and you can never get it back. But it's like, there's born again virgins. Like there are people who choose, to stay, what's the word, abstinent or whatever. So I think that the way that we're even speaking about it needs to change, and it needs to not be seen as something that's like a good to be exchanged. So yeah, I agree with Ahmad.
See, it's different for guys. So I come from a religious family, right? Like both my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family is religious. But growing up, like my uncle would tell me like, "Wachim, archi kamekini yaga shara me khrinako, ganala amazanaka bazi ganala." Like he would tell me it's okay to like hook up with girls. So I was always taught that at a younger age, which is weird because like for our women, we tell them not to be that way, right? But then we're telling our guys to do that. So it's such like a double standard in that aspect, which it just baffles me when like I hear like how women were taught about sexuality and compared to like how we were.
That's 100% true. I mean, the double standard, like nobody cares if you're a virgin when you get married. That's so
Naza, have you
frustrating.
been asked, Medina and Naza, have you guys been asked if you're virgins in dating scenarios?
I've never dated an Afghan guy.
Spare the question then.
So then in that case, no. Yeah, white dudes sure have asked, but I've never dated an Afghan guy.
I don't think I've ever been asked, but I've been asked how many people I've slept with for sure. And I'm always like, that's none of your business. Like, I'm here now. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, so I don't think I've been asked if I was a virgin.
Mortaza?
Can I cuss?
It's yeah. Go
Okay?
for it.
Okay. I'm just saying because this is like somewhere that I'm like somewhat pretty passionate about, but it's fucking bullshit. It's big time bullshit for it to be okay for me. Like from the time I was a kid, all my cousins, I grew up around a bunch of cousins who were just like players. They had 2 phones, they had a bunch of women they're dating at all times, all sorts of stuff, and it was okay in our family. Mom knew about it, dad knew about it, everybody knew about it, right? They knew that.
Oh, he cut off.
Oh,
you're back. You
okay.
back.
So they knew that there were like zanakabas and that was okay. And
what is zanakabas for those who don't speak Farsi?
Just a player, out there doing their thing with a bunch of women. So I think that's bullshit in regards to women, for like dudes to have that sort of standard over a woman in this day and age, to be like, oh, like, bro, you've been messing with like how many girls, and all of a sudden when you decided you wanted to stop messing around, you're gonna ask like your partner if she's a virgin, and you're gonna like complain about the fact that she's not or whatever. Like, it's just, I think that's really bullshit, and I don't support that at all. So I just want.
Yeah, like we were talking about this yesterday when we were discussing it. Like, I've had conversations with guys, and like I've asked them, like, hey, so if you were interested in someone and she slept with like a certain amount of dudes before, would you not like consider her like wifey material? And they thought I've been like, yeah, like I can't be with a girl who's been with this many guys, or like, I'm like, yo, I've seen you walk out the club with the girl like multiple times. Like, I've seen you leave my house to go to another girl's house. Yet it's okay for you to do that, but if a girl does it, you look at her like she's unpure and like like marriageable, which just drives me insane. I can't tell you how much it bothers me.
I think for me, a lot of the things that you all are saying, some of this stuff I've done, in terms of asking a girl how many partners she's had sex with.
Can't be friends anymore, Reza.
I mean, yeah, sorry. I didn't come out of the womb woke like all of you guys. And so a lot of that came from insecurity. A lot of that came from the fact that I myself don't choose not to have sex, right? I myself am abstinent. And so when I asked this one specific girl how many partners she had, a lot of it had to do with, am I good enough for you? Like, am I going to be someone that you want to be with, even though there's this sort of barrier between you and me in our relationship? And so that insecurity actually propelled a lot of toxic behavior in our relationship, sort of distrust and always doubting myself, always doubting her. And I think that, I'm not sure if this is what all guys sort of have inside the back of their minds when they ask a girl this, but I can imagine that a lot of guys would have that in the back of mind, that the root of this misogyny is really insecurity about their own manhood, or about how good they are. And it turns into oppression, it turns into silencing, and it turns into a weapon that they use, sort of like weaponizing your own insecurity. And so that's not me trying to justify it. That's me trying to relate and sort of.
It humanizes it, because we keep saying like, oh, as if none of us have done this, or yeah, thanks, Reza. That helps.
Yeah, I just like to say, I'd like to back that as well, because, my point of view, right, and being so passionate about the fact that I don't agree with it comes from the fact that I have participated in that. So I'm not like some spiritual being where I had this, like you were saying, like I'm not woke or anything. I've just gone through experiences of doing that and seeing how cancerous that sort of behavior is in a relationship.
Yeah.
He's so passionate, the computer's freezing on
I
him.
know.
No,
He said cancerous, and then
yeah, but it stems from one's own insecurities, right? It really does at the end of the day. And I think, some people are more in tune with that and some people aren't, for whatever reason. But I totally back what Reza's saying there, because I know during that time when I participated in stuff like that, it came from my own insecurities,
And another thing to think about is the consequences. This is the lies part. The consequences of us valuing virginity so much is that Afghan girls do have sex, and we participate in it too, but we can't talk about it. And then, so what happens when you contract an STD or you get pregnant? At least I can't speak for Afghans, but for Muslim students in the undergraduate campuses, I'm a PhD candidate at Duke. And we've been talking about it with Muslim students here, whether to keep condoms at the Muslim Life Center. Because girls are having sex, they just don't talk about it, right? But they don't know, because we haven't, and this is something we'll transition to, is how is it talked about in the home. But when girls are shamed for doing it and yet they still participate, you do live a double life, and it is at the detriment of your health, and no one talks about sex at all. So if abstinence is the only thing taught, you're curious, you experiment, you face the consequences, what happens to that girl, right? So that's where my mind goes. And those are the kinds of lies when we talk about sex, lies, and dating that I think about. What are the consequences when we set up such a high bar that not everyone meets?
I agree with you, Nura, and I think one of the consequences that comes out of that is the sex negativity that comes out of it. I fully believe that it's super important to be sex positive and see sex as an enjoyable and lovely thing. And when we apply consequences to it, it doesn't become that beautiful and loving
Right.
thing. And yeah, like STIs can be one consequence. I think unplanned pregnancies can become another. But I think just like the shame around sex becomes an
Yeah.
even bigger consequence. And yeah, it's really unfortunate that those are the consequences that we are dealing with because we just don't talk about it.
Yeah, and I want to give you guys an anecdotal example. I had two cousins who both were having children out of wedlock, a guy and a girl. And my female cousin was literally like excommunicated from the family.
Wow.
While my guy cousin, we threw him a baby shower.
What?
Yes. And she ended up getting reintegrated into our family because someone had passed away. So it was like, okay, like, because we feel bad for her type of thing. But it was just so hypocritical. Like they were actually, I think they were born on the same day. And it was like so crazy because it was like my girl cousin, like she had to move out. She got kicked out. Like it was horrible. Like I was really the only person there for her. But I was told multiple times to not communicate with her. Whereas for my guy cousin, we met baby mama and everything was fine. So we're definitely treating it differently. It's boys will be boys versus girls have to be honorable.
Yeah, my younger cousin just had a baby a few months ago out of wedlock, and we have a family group chat, and like somebody posted a picture of her baby on there, and like the responses that my cousins gave, like it just hurt so bad to see that. Like I can't imagine what she's going through right now because she's 21 years old. She's young as it is. She's super young to be a mom, and to be a mom like out of wedlock with a non-Afghan guy. Her partner's black. Like so she's getting a lot from all ends, and then to see like how my family responded, like it just hurt me deep to my core because we don't talk about it. Like we know that these things happen, but because we've never talked about it, when something happens afterwards, what we do is we just shun and just like make these people feel like they're not worthy because we've never talked about it. So what do they know? Like because we've never discussed what we should and shouldn't do.
And I think that having that discussion about things like virginity and sex positivity is super important. And for everybody who's listening and watching on the call, we are going to talk about ways we can encourage that kind of behavior within the community towards the end of the chat. I think, however, one of the things that often happens in these conversations is that language gets ambiguous. And so one thing that I wanted to sort of define, not just for us as people participating, but also people who are in the discussion or who are listening to the discussion is, what do we define as a relationship? Is a relationship just, can a relationship just be a fling? Or must a relationship be something that you're doing for marriage? Right?
It's when you add someone on Snapchat and start snapping each other.
No, it is not. No, it is not. I know you may think that, but it is definitely not.
That doesn't count?
No, it does not. I'm putting the kibosh on that right now, unless someone else wants to respond to that.
No, I mean,
Nora.
No, I don't support Nora. I love you, Nora, but that doesn't define a relationship. It's super subjective, right? Like when you ask someone like what defines a relationship for me might not be the same thing that defines a relationship for you, Reza. Like so it's all based on our comfortability. So some people, it's like once you have that title, then you're in a relationship, right? But like personally for me, if I'm committed to you as far as like we're talking every day, we've gone on dates and I don't want to see other people, then we're in a relationship. And I don't need that title like, yeah, this is my girlfriend to put me in that relationship, So that's what defines a relationship for me, at least.
I think that and maybe my perspective is super off on this because I haven't dated Afghan guys, but to me and have recently like wanted to me, a relationship in the Afghan community is just a path to marriage. It's not just a relationship or just a hookup. Whereas when I was dating white dudes, it was just a relationship. The marriage was not the end all be all of that relationship. But for me, it seems like in the Afghan community, it's like, no, you're in a relationship to get married, and if you're not, then get out of it.
Yeah, to me, I'm in a relationship when I go, am I your girlfriend? And the guy goes, yeah. So I always ask it because I'm like, are you trying to waste my time? Like, I need the label. Like, I need the label because I'm trying to know, like, what are your intentions type of thing. And now when I'm dating, because I'm pushing 30. So now when I'm dating, I straight up ask, like, well, I don't even ask. I say, this is what I want out of life. I want to get married and I want to have kids. So I'm letting you know that that is something that I'm committed to. And if you're not about that life, then you could exit. But I'm trying to get hitched, and not because my culture expects me to, but because I respect that union and that's what I want. So to me, what defines a relationship is when I am introduced to your homeboys as your girlfriend, and sooner rather than later, I would also like an Instagram post about me. And that's it.
Murtaza, do you consider yourself in a relationship with your fiance? Or like, did people know you were in a relationship before you guys came out as engaged?
Some people did, but definitely not everybody. Definitely not like a lot of her family, and I'd say like most of my immediate family knew, just because they knew her from AAC and stuff like that. So it's kind of a given. But just to comment on that, like my experience, and I think this applies to anybody, is we kind of go through life and we have these experiences that help us grow as human beings, and we come to a place where how do I say this? We come to a place where like we just kind of know what we want, what we don't want, and we can lay out from the get-go like what the intentions are, right? Whereas like, you know, when I was 16 years old, I didn't know how to tell a girl, hey, I don't really want I didn't know, like I don't really want a relationship or anything like that. I didn't know it was okay to say stuff like that to a woman. If they say yes or they say no, like either way it's okay. And then but you grow to like kind of you know, to have more open communication and stuff like that, and just being more and more transparent with what you want with, you know, people, especially in the dating world. So
I'm going to share an embarrassing story. I used to have, I won't say his name because we're still Facebook friends. I was in the 4th grade or 5th grade. He'd call my house every day, and that's before cell phones because I'm old. The home phone, and call me and talk about life for an hour, until one day my mom picked up the phone and she goes, she says his name. She's like, Bachim, I need to tell you about Muslim culture. In our culture, Afghans and Muslims don't date, so stop calling. So he comes to school the next day. He's like, your mom told me to stop calling. I was like, oh, okay. And then he called me that night. And like he just continued calling because he just didn't register, and we were like hella young. And I didn't know he liked me. I just thought he was calling me. But it's interesting how even at that age, my mom was like ready to shut things down and like picked up the phone and was like, this needs to end. But there's hopefully your mom was cooler, because I think you have something to say about this.
Yeah, no, I mean, my mom's all right with it. She knew like my brother was dating his now fiance, and she was okay with that. But Murtaza, you said something about AAC, which got me to thinking, because like, yo, it is hard for a young Afghan brother to be finding girls out there nowadays, right?
And
So
young
like,
girls.
right, it's tough. I mean, we all live in like different areas of the country. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. We grew up in different backgrounds.
Are you
Like, how are
starting
people?
Afghan Tinder? Is that what's happening?
Nah, they already have that. It's a Minder. I tried to put my mom on it. She flipped out. um, uh, like it's tough. So like, how do people like find relationships? So like personally, like I'm on Bumble and I'm on Tinder, right? And it's like sometimes I'm ashamed to say it because people think like, oh yeah, you're just on there to try to like hook up with like random chicks and blah 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 blah. But like I've genuinely met like girls on there that I've like hung out with and dated and like were super cool people. It didn't turn into anything, right? But it's such a taboo, like to see like Tinder on someone's phone or Bumble on someone's phone. But like, how do they expect us to go and like find women nowadays? Like, not everyone has a Noura that's gonna like jump in and try to find them a wife, you know?
I
got
have
you.
probably been on every single site and every single app that exists outside of JDate and Christian Mingle. But like you said, Diz, for the longest time, yep, and Plenty of Fish, all of them. For the longest time, my mom, I couldn't tell her that I was online dating for, I don't know, up until like a couple of years ago. It was like, oh, I met him through a friend of a friend. It was like still super taboo. But now she's so desperate that she's like, well, have you tried them? Are you on them? But yeah, I agree. My heart is not in it in online dating. It's just, I can't get behind like, I'm going to meet someone off my phone screen. You know what I mean? Like, and I've had relationships off Tinder, and I've dated someone off eHarmony. I've done all of that, but I just like, my heart's not in it anymore because it just doesn't seem real.
But is it more real when like someone's mom notices you at a wedding and then hits up your mom? Does that feel more real?
Yes. To me, it does.
I disagree heartily with that. To me, like when someone's mom sort of like nudges their way towards me, right? Like an auntie or something. Quick fact, every time that I have dressed up in a suit and been out in public, somehow an Indian woman finds me and starts to interrogate me about like where I'm from, who my parents are, where I go to school. And the minute they find out I'm a med student, Bismillah, like it's
Done.
So like I think the thing is, like, for me, it feels more fake when someone is trying to set something up for me, mainly because like all they know about me is that I check a couple boxes for them, you know, the first born son of an immigrant family who goes to medical school, all this other crap, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Isn't that Tinder though? Like Tinder,
Well,
you're
that-
swiping right,
but that's the
left, or
thing. I'm not
however.
trying to say that Tinder is better, right? I'm trying to say that like any mode, right, of finding someone is going to be equally crappy as every other mode of finding somebody, right? Like they're all equally crap. Like let's say you go to AAC, right, and you try to meet somebody at AAC, that is hella awkward because you're trying to be really deep and like trying to like get learned, and at the same time you're trying to find bae. And so like it's and there's this weird I remember at our first conversation about this, we were talking to one of the OG TSNers, and he was talking about how a girl sort of like accused him of like stalking her, right? And like, you know,
Wow.
like being, and she was really uncomfortable with him because he offered to go to like this closet area and like help her get boxes that he didn't know like if she needed help or not, right? To get boxes from the second AC. And the thing is, she may have felt uncomfortable, rightly so, right? Which is totally her thing. She deserves to express that truth. But in these large convention spaces, that tension between men and women gets played out in really bad ways that could hurt people in the rest of the community, right? And so there's no good way of finding someone. There's no perfect way of finding somebody, right? So I think they're all equally crappy.
I agree with Reza. Like, whenever somebody's mom asks about me, I get insulted. Like, I'm like, why are you assuming that I want to marry your whack ass son? Like, why do you even think that like this is a possibility for you and I want you as a mother-in-law? Like, you need to humble yourself and fall back. And that shit pisses me off. Like, I'm like, what the F? Like she really thought that this was about to be a part of that. Like, I don't think so. Like, he's just a like camera dude. Like, I don't like it. And it grosses me out. And then afterwards, I can't see the guy the same because I'm like, you went and told your mom that you're into me. You should come up to me. Like, you come up to me. Don't make this about your family. Don't include my mother in it and like set up expectations for her. I feel like it's such an intimate thing that I like the concept of a khoskari, but after it's been agreed that like you want that and like you want to be with this person. So I don't like whenever people go through my mom because it takes away my agency. And it's just like assuming that because someone, because my mother approves of someone, I'm almost obligated to get to know them. And I don't like that. So I would have more respect for a dude if he came up to me himself, even though it's very taboo to like go up to somebody at an Afghan wedding or an Afghan gathering, but there's social media and you can hit me up somehow. So that's just kind of my take on it.
I get the opposite. I get like my mom and my aunties sending me freaking pictures of random girls from weddings, melas, freaking fatyas. Like legitimately, my aunt the other day was like, "Your mom took pictures at a fatya for you of some girls that I thought was cute," and I'm like, "Yo, look, I understand that I'm at an older age now and I'm not married, and you're worried that maybe I'm not gonna be for whatever reason."
It sounds like the
But-
wedding crashers when they go to funerals.
Yeah, but yo, don't take pictures of random girls at a fatya, because if that comes back to me somehow, I seem like the weird guy that like sends his mom to like take pictures of these random girls. And by the way, if my mom ever took a picture of you, I promise I had nothing to do with it. I told her I don't want like I don't want the girls that you're sending me, mom. I'm good. But it's
yeah.
tough.
No, it's true because some of these people do it without like consulting with their sons. I was sitting at a party with my grandma. This lady doesn't even whisper, comes across the room. She's like, "How old is that one?" and points to me. It's like, "Not this one, that one." "Okay, I got it. I'll be back," and walks away. And I had just showed up to Fremont the night before, and I was like, "Have things in Fremont changed that much where you just point and go that one and walk off?" Like, it's crazy. But so how does this conversation change? Because Naza, you brought up non-Afghans and you've never dated an Afghan. So how does the dynamic around relationships change when we're talking about dating an Afghan versus our partner being from another background?
It's definitely tricky, and a lot of things that we've talked about tonight have already been mentioned. So one piece of it that Mandina said earlier about like not bringing everybody home, my parents have never met anybody that I've dated. My mom knew about them, sure, but she's never met anyone because she had the same thoughts that your mom did of like, don't just bring any old Joe Schmo around here. So it was hard for guys to understand. Like I met their parents within months of dating them, right? But it was hard for them to understand why they never got to meet my parents. And so that was an awkward conversation to have, and just trying to bridge that cultural gap is really hard. I think just naturally because of being Afghan, but also just who I am, like I'm not a PDA person. And so like that was also awkward. And like, they're like, "Oh, I can't hold your hand on the street." Like, no, we're good. Let's just keep walking. So the cultural divides were definitely hard. And as I'm getting older, it's not something I want to continue to bridge, which is why I'm seeing myself more open to Afghan guys, because the struggle is too much. And when you get to like the point of a wedding and where you have this pinnacle of culture and traditions, like I don't want to have to keep bridging that divide.
Go, Diz.
You said to wait after Noura said something.
No,
I'm
no.
like,
Go ahead. Go
so I have a ton of Afghan friends, right? So for me, like if someone's dating someone that's not Afghan, or if I'm dating someone that's not Afghan, our friends don't even take that serious. Like they don't think that like we're actually dating them with like anything behind it. Like they just think we're dating them to date them, right? Like most Afghans think like, oh, a lot of my Afghan friends, I shouldn't say most Afghans, I shouldn't speak for all people, but like my Afghan friends will be like, you know, like if she's not Afghan, then what's the point of you even dating her? Because you're not going to end up marrying this girl. But, you know, for all I know, maybe like I meet a Lindsay who's like dope and changes my mind and I end up marrying. Don't give me that face, Medina. Lindsay's like non-ambiguously racial name. It could be Hispanic, it could be black, it could be white, she could be whatever.
There's a Becky Wazari in the future.
Maybe, you never know, man. As long as like you
No,
find
Becky.
someone that clicks with you, right?
I hope
Like,
you meet Lindsay.
thank you. I appreciate you. See, that's a true friend right there. Doesn't
Nope.
give me mean faces on the side. But yeah, see, like even you, like you're saying nope because like being with a non-Afghan doesn't seem like real for people in our culture.
No,
which
I
is-
think just not Becky. Let it be like a Hispanic name or Korean name, please. Like,
what if
Hey,
it was
I know a
like,
Korean named Becky.
yeah, what if it was Lindsay from El Salvador? Then is it okay?
yes.
Okay, fine, fair enough. So just no white
But I
people.
actually want to build off that point. It's not even just about not being real. It can also be, and I think this plays into both genders when both genders date non-Afghans. Is it you kind of get this feeling that people think you're abandoning the community. You know what I mean? So like I remember one time I was at someone else's wedding, or it was a party or something like that, and this Afghan friend of mine asked, why don't you date Afghan girls? And it's like, I don't know, it's not a conscious choice, like on my part. You know what I mean? Like I fall for who I fall for. I can't really say that I grew up the way that Diz grew up, or that other folks who grew up in Fremont grew up. You know what I mean? Like surrounded by Afghans. I was surrounded mainly by my family. That was like the biggest point of contact that I had with Afghans. And so I just have never really dated them. And to sort of have that put on me that like, oh, you're choosing to abandon your community and just sort of like leave the Afghan women by the wayside, right? And I think that happens to Afghan women too. They're like, you're abandoning the community, you're choosing to leave Afghan men by the wayside. Like I think that really makes it harder to talk about the relationships that you have with non-Afghans. You know, I'm lucky that like I'm surrounded by AAC folks who have like gone to the conference and sort of approached non-Afghan relationships with an open mind, I guess. Maybe not even all AAC participants do that, but the ones that I hang out with do. And so that's a stroke of privilege and a stroke of luck for me. But I think there's that weighs on people who are Afghan and date outside of the Afghan community.
Definitely.
I just like to say I believe that it definitely depends on the family and stuff, because I actually have a cousin who married a white girl, and they have had 4 beautiful kids. One of my cousins that I grew up with, and not only that, but she was so intertwined with our family. She learned Farsi. She was one of my grandma's favorites. She was always like helping out my grandmother, helping her just like around the house and stuff like that. Always spoke Farsi with her and everything like that. So I think it also really depends on the family when it comes to, um, if it's non-Afghan or Afghan, really. So just saying.
Yeah, and I think white is accepted. I wonder what happens when you marry someone who's black or like seen as taboo and stereotyped. That's what my question comes in, because for me, I have a specific career and like certain interests that align with people from specific communities and certain people I meet usually, right? But then a lot of the whispers you hear is like, oh, she's marrying or with so and so because she couldn't find anyone. It's like something's wrong with her if she's with someone that's not Afghan. What's wrong with her is the thing, right? So it's almost like if I want to date someone who's not Afghan, he better be like an MD, PhD from Harvard and Yale and have like bells whistling and degrees like Barack Obama. Like he better be Barack Obama for me to marry the non-Afghan. Like that. So I'm allowed as long as they bring Barack Obama home. So
Well,
that's,
no, you mentioned like, someone bringing home a black guy. Like I said, like
yeah.
my cousin had a baby with a black guy, and the response that she got, like my other cousins married white dudes, right? Like they're married to German guys, and it was okay. Like, yeah, at first they kind of like were hesitant to like accept it, but the fact that, like she was dating a black guy and the fact that she had a kid with a black guy was to the point where like now like my cousins don't talk to her anymore, right? Like poor girl's 21 years old, doesn't have a family to turn to really, but maybe like 2 or 3 of us who still with her and talk to her. Like I make sure to talk to her 2-3 times a week just because I want her to know like you still have family here that cares about you, even if these other people aren't. Because it's such a taboo. Like it's okay to date white, but it's not okay to date black for whatever reason in our culture.
And it gets to prior conversations we'd had about like the pervasiveness of like anti-black racism. Like it's real and it's something in our community we have to acknowledge. But this is an interesting tension because you have that, and on the other hand, Naz's point, like you do want something that connects to your family. So it's kind of it's cool to see how we look at this from different lenses. But this leads us to our last question to sort of wrap up with, and it was posted by Crystal Kishwares. And the question was on solutions. Diz, do you have the question open? Because I don't have it open anymore. I found it actually. Okay. What are some practical steps we can take now to erase the taboo of dating and the culture of shame that surrounds it from our communities?
I think doing things like this, like us talking about it, right? So the more we have these uncomfortable conversations with people, the more likely we are to end that taboo, because that's how you stop things from being taboo, is you put it out in the open.
You did cut me off, Des, because I was going to use my
Sorry.
line, let's talk about sex, baby, because that's the only way that it happens.
My bad. My bad.
But, and I don't even think it has to be with our parents or with older generations. I think even just between us, like we need to be more open about it and talk about like what we're doing and what happens. Like if you feel comfortable with it, of course, right? But that's the only way, like I'm going to keep hammering the sex positivity point home. Like we have to build that around relationships and dating and sex in our culture. And the only way we can do that is if we continue to talk about it and talk about it in a positive manner with each other. And then, you know, we can start to broach it with our parents, or, you know, at least like start with the G-rated version of dating, so that they can see that it happens and it's a natural thing and it's fine. And the world didn't explode or stop turning because someone dated someone, you know? But I agree with you 100%. It's the conversations. And then I also think it's the education, like learning about it, right? Like to the point of the unplanned consequences when you don't know about sex education, making sure that we do have that as a part of our community, that you know, if public schools, which I will attest to, are not always doing a great job of educating our kids, that we figure out a space for that for the younger generation to also learn about it in a positive and safe manner.
Yeah, just like I'd like to also say, I think in one of the first questions you guys asked me about my partner being Afghan and how much that made a difference. I didn't get to say it then, but I kind of get to make the point now because it meshes well with all this, which is my mom, when I went to her and I told her about Jasmine and what I wanted to do and everything, she was actually upset at me that I didn't bring her into the process earlier. So it was my misconception of this idea that's, you know, gets thrown around our community and stuff, and myself being influenced by that idea, you know, and I look back on that and I don't regret it or anything like that, right? Because it probably would have made things a little bit more challenging, but the thing is I could have walked through that with my mother, and who knows how much greater the experience would have been if I did that, you know. So I think also is that a big part of this is that we need to get over our own fear of being fucking adults and having sexual fucking needs and being human beings, and like scared to talk about it. So
Yeah, I think like one tangible way is just the way that we're talking about it and framing it as, like how Nozo was saying, like something that's sex positive. And if we do want to explain it to the older generation, our parents, just letting them know, like, I'm telling you about this because I love you and I want to trust you and I want you to trust me and I want you to be there for all of my life decisions. And because you are my parent, like it doesn't have to be like I'm disrespecting you or I'm disrespecting the culture, but it's more like I'm respecting you. And if we want to kind of get our parents on the same boat, I think that that's how we can frame it.
I also framed it that way with my parents, that like I want to include you in the process of me dating this person, and I don't want to sort of do what I've seen others do in the community, that is to keep their parents in the dark, and then, you know, all of a sudden it's surprised that, hey, here's this non-Afghan, hello, everything's harder now, you know. I didn't really want to do that to them, but I also think that like my parents were cool with it because they don't have to participate in this sort of like social currency that occurs amongst Afghans with regards to their children and their dating lives. You know, like my parents don't really hang out with other Afghans, period, like at all. And so me dating somebody doesn't really affect their social standing, so they're not that worried about it. You know what I mean? And so I think I have like a stroke of luck, a stroke of privilege, in that my parents don't have to make these sort of calculations in the back of their head. And I recognize why a lot of kids like us, first generation and stuff like that, don't really tell their parents, right? Because in the community, it can mess things up for them.
Yeah, I think in terms of thinking about removing stigma, I have brothers that are young, 18 and 20. So like I feel like a like apparent to them. And I'm very open. Like if you're dating someone that's a-okay, just let us know so we know like how to be of support to you. And so like that kind of candidness is something I hope to have if I ever have kids. And it's something that I'm having with especially girls that identify as religious. So like one of the things is because I wear the hijab, only certain kinds of dudes approach me because they automatically assume that I'm interested in a specific kind of relationship, right? So in some ways it's a protection, in some ways it's a word that is not, it's not a protection, it's annoying because like they presume a lot of things about me just based on that. Nation of anyways, so I just got a text message about that. So I think that one of the ways to remove the stigma is for people is to show that people across the spectrum date. I think Muslims who are observant date, and I see people that are chaplains talking to practicing Muslim Afghans about dating and being open to that. So part of it's this whole like being associated with being bad. It's almost like if I choose to date, then I'm no longer a good person. Or like if I'm dressed as like a person with hijab, then I'm seen as different because like then that means I'm not supposed to. So there's all these weird hangups we complicate with it. And I think by being open about what we do and the fact that like it's 2018 and like modern, you know, like everything has changed about society. So we need to kind of get with the times in terms of getting to know people. We need to be more open about that. Last thoughts, though, in the last 2 minutes. As we enter a sort of like a March and Valentine's Day is gone and thinking about, you know, this will probably not be the last time we talk about love and relationships in the Afghan community because things change every year. New things happen. Maybe there will be an Afghan Minder. Actually, Minder was started by an Afghan.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
There needs to be an AAC specific Tinder, so when you're there, you can just swipe for who's interested and available.
Okay, organize. I hope you're paying attention to the idea. But
It's okay. I'm not going, so it won't affect me this year.
No, don't do that. Let's not do that. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen right there.
We'll see. I want to see how big someone's eyes bugged out when he heard that idea.
I'm pretty sure they get a lot of flack for that.
Right? I mean, everyone already thinks it's a freaking dating conference anyway, so don't do that.
Well, let's be real, man. I mean, under the surface, it is. Tell me it's not. Tell me it's
Look
not.
at how many relationships came out of it.
Tell me it's
3 out of 500.
Now, 3 that we know of.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers is out there looking for relationships.
I'm there to
a few more are gonna pop up next month. Just
but here's the thing: I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and just being a guy who got a relationship out of that whole thing. I went with the full intention of, look, I'm here because I have to serve a greater purpose, and I knew there was going to be a bunch of Afghan women there, but I put that aside, right? But that doesn't mean.
See, he got cut off because he was lying.
That's not true. That's not true.
So how do we remove the stigma? Because when people talk about AAC being somewhere people meet people, it's seen as a bad thing.
Okay, first of all, it's not a bad thing. If you meet someone who's like-minded and wants to do the same things you do at a conference, great. Why the hell shouldn't you meet them there? Second off, it's speaking from experience. I spent all of last year prepping with you, so there was no like thought of like me like even looking at like other women. Like we were prepping for our sessions. I'm serious, dude. I would ask her. We spent all our time together.
Yeah, it was like Saturday.
Yeah, we were sitting there on the laptop for like hours just prepping for our gender dynamics discussion. So that idea didn't even come to my mind. So you're there for a different reason. Some people might be there for it, like maybe you were there for it, Murtaza, but a lot of us weren't.
I wasn't asked her. I got her number on the last day as I was leaving. Barely talked to her.
So much is going on right now.
Great. Killed for that one.
Yes, you are.
We're hitting at the top of the hour. So with that, if there are no final thoughts,
Oh yeah, I had a final thought. Sorry.
Of course, you
Dudes
do.
need to stop. Yeah, leave me alone, Reza. It's a hater because you're from Riverside and you're upset because I keep calling you.
I'm not from Riverside.
Dudes need to stop being douchebags. All right, guys, we need to check ourselves. Like,
Amen.
I just we
okay.
can't.
Next topic
Yeah,
is toxic masculinity. Then please.
Oh, dude, please, I'm all for it, but we need to check ourselves, especially when it comes to how we respond to women, like, and how we respond to women's sexuality. Because we got to stop that shit. Because we're only hurting ourselves, and we're only hurting our own culture by doing that. So that's my final thought.
I would agree. And I think a dude who disagrees with what Diz said right there is a lame.
Strong words.
Because I mean, like, dudes who disagree with that, they hate guys like Diz or me or you, Reza, for talking about stuff like that, because then it makes what they're doing not okay.
Yeah, I think that, like, whenever you're applying for a job, they want you to have experience. I think that it's really important to date and to know what you want and what you don't want and what you can stand and what you can't stand. I've learned so much in the past 10 years of me dating. I started dating at like 17, 18, and it really taught me a lot about myself. It really taught me a lot about what I would want in a partner and what I value and what I don't value. And the type of person that I wanted to be with when I was younger and I thought would be like the ideal partner is like, that idea is kind of shifted. Like, it's still at the core, like, obviously you want someone that has their credit on check and can, like, you know what I'm saying, build a life for you and all that. But like, dudes that I dated back when I was a kid, I wouldn't even give them a second look now, you know? So it's like, I only could learn that through dating and through experiencing things with them. So it's actually really hurting women and men when you just, for the sake of honor, for the sake of the culture, you're going into something blindsided. I've seen a lot of girls, like a lot of my older cousins and like their friends, that ended up getting married to the first guy that they dated because they wanted to preserve honor. And of course, you know, they ended up separating with them. So what's more painful for you, knowing that your child or your cousin or your niece or nephew is seeing someone because they want to learn about what they like or what they don't like? Is that more painful for you? Or having to sit there when they're going through a divorce, or having to sit there when they have to divvy up their assets, you know, or like talk about who's going to get the kids on the weekend? So yeah, we need to definitely be sex positive, relationship positive, and just encourage people to be more organic and be their genuine selves, especially with people who are as close as their family. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And we appreciate it. We appreciate all of you guys and girls for coming out here tonight and talking to us, discussing this really important topic in our community. And also, we want to thank the audience for tuning in for about an hour. That's really awesome of you guys, and we always appreciate your support. Check out our podcast, check out our website, check out our Facebook. It's all there in the event info. If you have any other questions, please post them up. Of course, people who are in this panel are also on the Facebook event page, and they're happy to just peruse through, see if there's anything they want to talk about and further the discussion. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. Everything is Some of Our Network, someofournetwork@gmail.com. And we look forward to bringing you another discussion next month, maybe about toxic masculinity, as Nora said. So again, thank you all so much, and we hope to see you next month, and we hope to see you on the podcast.
Shaba khash.